Welcome back to Leaders Live. I'm Charlie Stevens, your host. We had a great episode last week with Michael Weisner, co-owner of Westchester Angels. Key takeaway, when pitching, make sure you're getting to the next step. Get that next meeting. That's the only goal. And if you believe in something, the time to do it is now. Excited for today's episode with Mark Zablow, CEO, founder of Cogent Entertainment Marketing. We're going to talk about some of the experiential events and social media networking guru that he is. We're at 49 West 27th Street. I call it the Nikolai Tesla building. It's actually called the Radio Wave building because it used to be the former hotel where Nikolai Tesla invented the radio wave. So let's go up to the top floor, penthouse, 10th floor, to meet up with Mark at Cogent. Let's go. Welcome back, Leaders Live. Charlie Stevens, your host. Mark Zablow, CEO, founder, Cogent Entertainment Marketing. We're going to hear a lot about what's going on with their experiential events, social networking guru over here. Before we get started, Mark, reason why we're doing this, right? Understand why business leaders operate, how they operate. Once we understand how they operate, we can connect you with like-minded business professionals. Hopefully that helps your business grow, and relationships matter. So wrap that all up. Let's get to you, which is most important. We're going to do Q&A as well, so start submitting questions for Mark about 15 minutes from now. And into Mark. Mark, you are the CEO of this company, one of the best marketing companies out there right now. You are ranked best culture to work here. We got it right here, Ad Age, best places to work 2019. So you're doing a lot of good things. Before we get into what is Cogent, what you're doing, bring us back a little bit. You worked at a lot of marketing firms. Kind of give us a little backstory, a little context.
Absolutely. Just appreciate you having me. And especially in the middle of the day. This is a lot of fun, so excited to do this. I got my career started actually in nightlife. Yep. I worked in the events and promotions department for Randy Gerber's, it was called Midnight Oil Company back then. We had a lot of bars and nightclubs in the W hotels. Got to see a little bit behind the scenes of how New York worked, how the nightlife scene worked. Most importantly, learned the power of celebrity. On day one, you see a nightclub or a red rope with a lot of people behind it and no rhyme or reason on how people are getting through. But celebrity created a lot of access, a lot of publicity, a lot of cool factor. And so it's something that attracted me on day one. And from there, I was trying to always figure out, is that a business? Is that a career? Is it something that is more than nightclub? Something I can actually tell my parents what they do and understand. Right. And throughout that journey, I got very lucky. I found an entrepreneur, Ryan Shinman, who had a company, Platinum Rye Entertainment, took me under his wing and taught me at 25 years old, it's never too late to start over and go back to being an assistant and carrying the bags and a lot of those cliches. But when you do that, you get to learn a lot. You get to the access to some pretty amazing phone calls and some amazing meetings you wouldn't normally get. Got to build some pretty strong relationships with people in the industry that I wanted to be in and learned about what an influencer and a key opinion leader really is.
So working at the hotel, you understood the power of influencers before there was even social media or influencer marketing. You were kind of getting your ground there and making those relationships.
Absolutely. I was learning what would happen if a certain celebrity ordered a Grey Goose over an Absolute Vodka, and if that ended up in the press. The press in early 2000s was our social media. If you were in New York City, Page 6 was New York Instagram.
Post, baby.
It still is to me, but so to that extent, yes, I learned a lot about that. When I went to Platinum Rye, I learned that there was a business behind that. And when you talk about influencer marketing, we as a company are very careful when other people say they need to work with an influencer agency. When people hear the word influencer today, they think followers and they think likes and engagement. We think people that actually influence. What's a better recommendation than one from a trusted source, from your best friend or someone that you aspire to be like? And so at Platinum Rye, very early on, we were working on those programs. How do we get beer in the right people's hands? How do we get the hat on the DJ at the party? And at Platinum Rye, we were doing deals very big, and it was very exciting to work with celebrities and endorsements on global campaigns. But I got to play with a lot of live ammo below the line, allowed to take brands like Pepsi and Coors Light and Snapple and work on very small celebrity engagement deals. And Ryan and his team were smart. They called that influencer marketing back in 2005. And so as the world changed and we were able to get ahead of where entertainment marketing was going, where brands were going and getting their products in the hands of celebrities, how media was changing, right? We went from New York Post and maybe a few magazines to blogs and tons of entertainment weeklies. The TMZs started coming out of nowhere. And then you had this explosion of celebrities, reality stars, housewives, Jersey Shore castmates, all the way up to your traditional A-list celebrities. Models started becoming brands, and we were very lucky in 2011 that we were able to pivot into an agency that truly focused on that level of below-the-line engagement with people of influence, with pop culture, with events and experiences. And that's allowed us to do, I think...
Yeah, let's talk about Cogent. I mean, you had the landscape, you had all this in place. Talk about the inception and how we grew Cogent.
Absolutely.
We're in this nice office space right now. I got the exposed brick, top floor penthouse.
Top floor penthouse in New York City is 10 floors. So let's be mindful how we brag. But yes, we're very thankful to be in this building, and brick has been a part of our company's look for many years. But overall, we were lucky. You know, a lot of people say right place, right time. I'll go with it. We were very ahead of how corporate America was spending their money with celebrities and pop culture.
Right.
We saw new avenues of celebrities, of distribution of content, and we were very trusted. We were trusted by corporations. We were trusted by the celebrities, their agents, their managers, and we were able to bring them non-traditional solutions, which a lot of people were doing at the time. They just didn't have the corporate credibility that we had.
Yeah.
And so, to be fair, leveraging a lot of Platinum Rise name and the relationships there, we were able to build a below-the-line solution, and out in 2011, we were able to pivot that into its own standalone business as Cogent, really looking at corporate America up here and saying, how do we leverage pop culture down here? How do we get to the consumer? How do we make them have FOMO? How do we make them Instagram about what we're doing? How do we make the consumer the network? But pop culture is always the vehicle we lean on. And I credit that back to the days standing outside those nightclubs, wondering how am I going to get in? And you see that celebrity and the access it creates and the press that comes from it the next day. We're following a very age-old and tried and true practice here. A lot of shout-outs to companies that were doing it before us, doing it, in a way that they just were ahead of where technology and media were.
Right.
So we're very lucky.
And now you're here. Talk about the non-traditional avenues. That you have a lot of these experiential events. I mean, not only is it just a launch, but it's a launch with a celebrity, somebody who's doing social media. You're wrapping this all. Kind of give us the outline of some of the events that you're doing. Some of the services that Cogent provides.
Sure. So we like to call it very simply event marketing. Mm-hmm. How do we bring a consumer product to life in the way where they're actually touching it, whether it's liquid to lips or butts and seats? How are we engaging with the consumer? But more importantly, how are we turning the consumer into the network and promoting the brand itself? How do we build that trust coming out of the event? So the days of the big poster and the big banner behind the scenes, they're a little bit antiquated. Now we're looking for what's the Instagram moment. What's the wow factor when a consumer goes on site that says, wow, I need to go there. I want to experience that. I want to wear that hat. I want to buy that shirt. I want to Instagram that. I want to make that my profile picture. Those are the experiences that we're looking to drive. Now, sometimes we'll leverage celebrities, influencers, athletes, DJs, models, and so on to help drive awareness or to drive what we call authenticity by association into the equation. And sometimes that will come in the form of just an engagement with the celebrity for a promotion, for a piece of content, for an advertising campaign. Where we're seeing the world collide is people want experience. They want to engage with a celebrity or influencer offline. Mm-hmm. They want to create something super cool, create some FOMO, and then let the audience blast that out. Right. And that becomes
reshare it, get the engagement up.
Exactly. So that's the difference that we're capitalizing on. It used to be, let's create content, give it to the celeb or influencer, and let them blast it out and sit back and be lazy. Yeah. Today, brands are smart. They're creating these experiences. There's more influencers than there's brands. So the influencers need content. They're begging to show up. They're begging for these opportunities. The events themselves, we see a lot with some of the brands we work with Corona, with Modelo, with Pacifico. Voodoo Festival is a great example. Modelo Especial, brings an amazing element to the Voodoo Festival, whether it's from the viewing stage they build to the art car that goes into the parade. They bring an element that helps increase the festival overall. They're not just there selling beer and seeing what they can get out of that. And that's, I think, what we're super proud of. The experiences we're creating, the influencers or the DJs or the celebs that we're putting in, they're always asking if we can do it again. How can we do it in a way that enhances the value, not just puts money in everybody's pocket?
Right. And you also see it here. I mean, the group that you have here, you have a best winning culture. You're creating this awesome atmosphere in here. Talk about a little bit the award-winning culture you have here at Cogent. I mean, you are hiring. Hint, if anyone who's looking for a job, maybe this could be a little tip for you.
Absolutely. I love to have fun. People always said, why'd you start a company? Is it to build your company, sell it, make money? Those things are what we're here for. You're a capitalist yourself, I'm assuming, coming from the real estate group.
Sure.
But we started this company to have fun. Sometimes that's in the way we dress, the way we express ourselves, the work we do. We don't see a lot of insurance clients, healthcare clients in this office. Wink, wink, we love an insurance client. We think insurance could be fun. But overall, we were millennials, and we were looking at the way the world was changing, and we said, let's really make sure we approach this in a way that can attract great people, not just because we want the best people that are working here, but we want that to bleed off in the service we give to our clients. And we can honestly say that, sometimes we work with clients that tell us that we make their job more fun. Yeah. We're very responsible, we're very professional, but fun needs to kind of be in the equation. And sometimes the fun comes from being creative, sometimes it comes from taking risks, but a lot of times I think it comes from allowing people to be themselves. And in this day and age where everyone was challenging the millennials, everyone was so afraid of what millennials were going to bring into the equation, we embraced the hell out of it. Flexible working schedules, having multiple gigs on the side, pursuing your creative passion. We create more merch than any company probably should.
Sick merch too. I like the merch. Little combinations of like the Knicks logo, big Knicks fan, or Lakers logo because you got headquarters in both. But I like that. Absolutely. That vibe that you're putting out there.
Look, it goes back to what we say. It's authenticity by association. No one's dying to wear a red blimp on their hat that says Cogent. But when we make a fun hat that looks like Chanel or looks like the Knicks or it looks like another fun brand, or we did a great shirt for someone's birthday the other day that was the Astro World logo, and we wrote JP World on it. And when our clients and friends and people that have nothing to do with our business are writing us and asking for it, we know we're doing something fun. But really sticking there, what I learned from Randy back in the day was we never sacrifice substance for style. And so as much fun as we have, as much as we express ourselves, we learned from Corona. They say relax responsibly. We like to say work responsibly. And, kind of sitting where I sit, if I don't speak to everybody every day, but I tell them when you have to make a decision, make the responsible decision, it allows you to keep the fun. So like I said, a lot of people were nervous with millennials. And
let's touch on that a little bit. I mean, you got a lot of millennials in here. It's a cool atmosphere. Gen Z, how is that? How are you cultivating the relationships in here, and how are you managing, I guess, Gen Z? Because I think that's, a lot of people are hiring these kids. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think for everyone that was scared of millennials, I would say let's get excited for Gen Z. I was in a great conversation with a friend of mine, Eugene Rem, the other day, and I said, I'm so nervous with everything going on in the world. I'm counting on Gen Z to save us. And he said, what are you nervous about? And he broke down from his generation everything that was going on then. There was Cold War this, financial ruin there, disaster there, and he said, it's very cyclical. History repeats itself. And it kind of made me feel a little bit better, but what I feel really good about is, if you think about how millennials were not embraced, and you hear all the knocks people give to millennials. They're lazy this, they want that. They want all the things I wanted too. They don't want to wait in line. They want to get to the point. They're sick of legislation showing up everywhere in their life. So they made a lot of noise, and that's what scared us. But what I'm excited about with Gen Z is millennials laid the path for them to go in and execute. And so when you look at history and you look at leaders and you look, really far back at what people, world leaders at 15, 16 years old, 20 years old. I mean, for the first time, we had real interns in high school this year. As Gen Z as it gets, And the insights that we learn from them, the education they have on technology, on programs, on software, but more importantly, they have an opinion. And it's not the first answer on Google. I think that was the knock on millennials. Whatever Google said first was the answer. And I think a lot of people got rich buying keywords. And we know Gary Vee made good business in wine doing that alone. Gen Z, I'm finding they care about that second page on Google. They care about not where products are made and if they're sustainable, but what's behind them. Brand value, just because we used it for 50 years doesn't mean that there's not another way to go about it. And I say that in a way of, I'm finding more kids that know Harry's and Dollar Shave Club that know Gillette, finding more kids that know Quip and have subscriptions than they do Crest. Right. And so you think about that, right? You walk into a Walmart, you walk into a Costco. I'd rather be in the subscription business right now. And so Gen Z, I'm excited for. I think for whatever it's worth, I think they're going to save us.
Yeah, you're giving them a voice. I like that. As we move into the networking and collaborations, just a reminder: send some questions in for Mark, and we will answer it. Mike's got the microphone over here. We'll do that in just a second. But as we talked about the networking, how do you network? How do you work your network? We were talking a little bit about this before, but I thought it was solid. So, I mean, creating that network, building your network.
Absolutely.
You've done a great job of it.
We're in the client service business, similar in real estate, I bet. It's all network. People ask, how do you get new business? In a non-traditional world, advertising doesn't help.
Mm-hmm. Telling
someone, hey, what we do from consumer experiences, event marketing, influencer, celebrity, it is not, cookie cutter business. So it's 1,000% network, and I always like to say that starts with me and on down. Reaching out to people, whether I know them or not. I always look at different ways to get to them. People's email addresses are everywhere, but I don't even read email that much anymore. And so if it's not through a direct message on the right social media network or trying to get to them through a friend of a friend, I always reach out. I believe in the butterfly effect. I think anything I start today, even if I don't know the person, but I can see that they follow someone that knows someone I know on Instagram and start building that foundation, I find to be extremely valuable. When I do reach out and I do make the connection, even to a fault, I'd say, I always immediately lead with, how can I offer value? Right. And offering value isn't making people money. I think a lot of people look at me of, how can I offer value? It's more about, how can you show that you've done the research to understand what this person's agenda is? Mm-hmm. And from there, how can you bring some silver lining into that agenda? How can you show them, hey, I'm very excited and appreciative of what you've been doing, and please keep doing it. I look forward to following you. To, here's a great article or a great piece of insight I went out of my way to find for you. But always looking for ways to offer value. And sometimes that's some things that I say, sometimes you have to win people's trust or earn their trust, and sometimes I say you have to find their vice. We're very big on the speed to trust here. And, trust, I find, is really being transparent, being vulnerable, approaching the situation of showing your faults and really trying to show that person that, hey, you can let me in too. And when we can build that, and I think there's enough books on speed to trust, we find it wins well. But sometimes finding people's vice, I hate to say it, figuring out, do they have kids? What is their favorite sports team? How can you get on their radar? It's worked extremely well. And so when you think about the value side of things, not only does it help break down the barrier, but what does it do? Again, it creates some form of conversation, some form of potential FOMO. And the best compliment you can get is when you've done some outreach, you've connected with someone, you've added value, and they talk about it. They talk about it on social media, or you get a call from their friend. And so I found, make yourself open, always say yes, put it out there, pay it forward. A lot of those cliches, right, but that's been the tried and true tactic for networking, always. That's
solid. As you do these collaborations, you did one with Kanye West, the Yeezus line. How do you, or Corona, when you sit down with them, how do you find, where the value is? What are the questions you're asking? How are you going? How are you operating with this?
You bring up a good topic of collaborations. We're seeing that explode with brands these days. They just don't want to do an influencer partnership or a celebrity deal. They want to create an item. They want to put something out. We all saw Travis Scott put out, I think it was cereal with General Mills, selling out for thousands of dollars. Sneaker culture, hype culture, even sports card culture, we're seeing the involvement. it goes back to a lot of our ethos of authenticity by association. We put our logo next to some very high-profile logos because we think that helps bring the cool factor and the right association to us. A lot of brands now are bringing that into the equation, and it's becoming very standard. So when we look at the collabs, first and foremost, we say, is it believable? Would anybody believe that Monopoly and Kanye West could ever collaborate? But when you break down the DNA of it and you start asking, why are we collaborating? What's the benefit to the consumer? What makes sense to actually show up? And if we show up, are we going to be looked as cool, or are we going to be looked at as we're trying to jump onto the culture? And I think what I pride ourselves on is, we don't have a lot of those healthcare clients. As much as we don't have insurance clients, and I wish we did, we have a lot of your beauty clients. We have a lot of your consumer products because it's people in this office that are relating to it. And we're able to bring that real factor in. You don't see a lot of people marketing to demos that they're not in this office. Right. So again, you bring the authenticity into it, you bring the right association into it. What we find is as long as the brand has an understanding of who they are and who they're not in the equation, you can get pretty far. It's very fun to see some of the largest brands in the world have to really come down to these very small brands level that they want to collab with, because these small little guys, they have the power.
Right. They understand you. They listen to you.
Absolutely.
Mr. McIntosh, what do we got? The questions that are coming in the live feed of LinkedIn Live.
Hey guys, Mark, really enjoying the show, man. We've got a few really good questions here. This one is from Daruv. His question is, Mark, how do you see Cogent expanding in the sports world in the near future, considering the incredible rise of social media and its usage?
We've always been famous in the sports world, just maybe not have heard of it.
Tag the social media guru for the sports world right now.
What I think is more important in sports right now is paying attention to consumers' habits. We're hearing a lot about, for us especially on the beer side and the wine and spirit side, about the occasions around sports, the prices in the stadiums. And so how do we bring more value to the consumer experience inside the stadiums, not just for the beer companies, but I think for everybody that is focusing on sports. Obviously tailgating and the extension of that brings a tremendous opportunity. But look, I think if you think about what's hot right now with the NBA, with sneaker culture, with China, I think that's a big bucket we're paying very heavily attention to.
What else we got, Mike?
All right, great. Thanks so much for that. All right, we got a question. How are you turning the consumer to the networker or promoter?
Consumers are a network. I think one of our earliest Cogent decks, it actually comes out and it talks about that. When Jay-Z and Beyonce did the first On the Run tour, it was the second highest grossing tour of all time. And first or second, it was some crazy number. When they did the exit polling, the first reason why'd you come tonight, I'm a big Beyonce fan, I'm a big Jay-Z fan. But I think this was 2015, 2014, the second highest response was for the Instagram moment. And that was our aha moment. We pivoted to everything we do must have an Instagrammable moment. So while you see a lot of companies working with consumers and influencers, my dad sent me an article this morning about Amazon's level of what they call influencers, and we spoke to another company last week that uses shoppers that go combat reviews as influencers. So that sphere is massive. What we believe is create good experiences that engage the consumer, give them something to share, and it'll incentivize them to have a better social media following. Right? And until you get that engagement, you don't really care about what you're posting. So put good content out, and consumers will flock to it, and that'll step up their game.
And you got an event coming up too. You want to give a quick plug to that event, that experiential event that you're going to be blasting?
Yeah. So every year, every summer, we have some fun events. We've had our Cogent Palooza parties with Wu-Tang perform. We've had our Cogent Day off at Coney Island. Thursday night at Rally Road, which is one of the portfolio companies we've invested in. We have our Cogent Rally with, I think it's a $500,000 or $600,000 Lamborghini in the middle of the store. We'll have some special guest artists perform. That's kind of in our DNA. Probably be a lot of Corona and Modelo and some good folks on site.
think that's my vice. Where can they find that Cogent website? Or
At Cogent World on Instagram.
Okay. Mike, you got one more?
Yeah, sorry, we got one more here. All right, just knowing the awards that you've won for the culture that you've created here at Cogent, could you just give the audience a couple either characteristics, attributes, or just items that you've put in place to help this be such a thriving culture?
It's a tough question. I would put that back to the team at Cogent. There's 50 plus of us today. I've had a good hand in influencing a few certain folks. Being accountable for your work. First and foremost, we have some mantras we say here that I think Jay-Z says difficult takes a day, impossible takes a week. We say the difficult we do immediately, the impossible takes a little bit longer. We're responsible to the element, accountable for the mission, a very big NASA quote. As you can see, we don't create much here, we remix a hell of a lot though. I think that's really what we've tried to do, is always do the right thing. We're in the client service business. People are trusting us with their money. They're trusting us with their brand. Being accountable. It's really not that hard. The hard stuff we won't tell you. You got to pay for that.
As we wrap up, as we have just a couple more questions, you want to give a quick shout out for Prep? I saw that you're very active with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, philanthropy and giving back and how we do that, we've always had to, get a little bit creative. One thing we're very excited about in New York, the program Prep for Prep, it provides opportunity for people of color and people that are come from disadvantaged areas, but are just super brilliant, and they do a great job going into the system, finding these people and putting them on the right path, helping them get the funding and the support they need to go to some of the best schools in the city. We provide some internships and some other support to the organization. We find these high school kids are smarter than we are. They all go to the best schools in the world. And it's something that allows us to feel like we're making a difference in New York. What's cool about this city is most of us were not born here, we're not raised here. But we all consider ourselves New Yorkers once we've lived here. So to give back to the education system here, I'm sure if you read about what goes on here with education, it's very tough. So for especially people that are from underprivileged, it makes us feel really great.
Solid. Words to live by as we wrap up, that you could leave off, personal mantra or ethos.
One thing I learned a long time ago from a nightclub owner named Stevie D is he taught me that he buys his own dinner. And in a guy in Las Vegas where everyone was trying to buy him dinner, I didn't understand. Why would you pay for dinner when it's free every night? And what he said to me was, because I want to go wherever I want to go. I want to eat what I want to eat. I don't want them sending me anything special. And I want to pick up the tab because I don't want them coming over to me and thinking that for my $100 dinner, I now owe them a favor. Mm-hmm. And I always thought that was interesting because I love a free dinner, especially growing up, going to Las Vegas for work. You couldn't afford those dinners. But as you get into this business, and especially when you deal with sports, entertainment, things of sexiness, or things of allure, appeal, the tickets, the events, the meet and greets, the autographs, the experiences, the faster I've learned to say no. No one can take me for a dinner and call me the next day and say, can I get an introduction to your client for a $100 steak or a $50, round of drinks. So I always say buy my own dinner. Second thing I tell people is, if you want to work in our industry, you're no longer a fan. What I say is cheer for economy. Who do you want to win the World Series, the Super Bowl? Whoever's going to sell more jerseys. Whoever's going to convince corporate America to put more media and more money into sports and not into something that you're not playing in. So, we say cheer for economy. We say buy our own dinner. I like to say suits are for weddings and funerals, but I'm sitting with the wrong crowd
I
here.
took the jacket off,
so,
man. It's too hot right
to go
now.
there.
Jeez.
And then I'd say lastly to everybody younger than me. So if you're 37 or younger, what I'd love to say is when it comes to measuring success, one lesson I learned early on that's really helped me is another sports reference, but this is a batting average. It's not free throws. And I say that all the time. 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, you're the worst free throw shooter in the world. But 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 3 out of 10, you're one of the best baseball players ever. And so I'm sure in your business too, maybe it's a little bit different, but how you measure your expectations of success. If I can go 2 for 10 in a year, in a week, I mean, that technically is a great year. But if I measure it like I'm Shaq, I'm gonna have a very bad year. So, so I think in this day and age of mental health, measure expectations the right way.
Every no is closer to a yes. Can we leave off with maybe a question or challenge for the community? I know you're hiring, maybe you want to talk about that, but I mean, anything that you can engage with the community on LinkedIn. They can answer it, tag you on the comments.
I think Gen Z is the conversation. I would say a lot of people were saying they're going to adapt for millennials, free t-shirts, ping pong tables, free lunch. We offered free lunch once. When we canceled it, we thought it was going to be a big deal. One person quit. We were thrilled that they quit, but we lost one whole person on changing up some of those things. So what I guess I'd say is, how are you adopting your company, your culture, your product, your service, whatever you bring to the equation? How are you adapting that for Gen Z?
Yeah, absolutely. Solid. I appreciate your time. We're going to wrap it up. Just bring out the belt. We got to bring out the belt now. You can wrap it up in the dome.
Yeah, it's not that light. It's a real belt. You can test it.
Happiness in music is undescribable. The happiness in music